Hi, welcome back to 3 Talking Rabbits. I'm Gal, and we are in the chick A-frame. I'm going to sit here with my little birds so they get more friendly with me. This is going to be a homeschooling video, the first of maybe 3 or 4 parts. So, the first one is why we homeschool. The next one is some myth busting about homeschool students and homeschool families. And this third, which is a little bit harder of a topic, is why people choose not to send their children to public school, which is a different topic from why we do homeschool. And I think it's important to make the distinctions between the two because they aren't the same. After that, I'm going to talk about some super scientific survey about homeschooling, meaning I threw up a Facebook poll and people answered, which looks at the trends in homeschooling in Western and Central New York. Specifically Western and Central New York. I didn't ask anybody outside of that. All of these are fully scripted because I need to choose my words carefully so as not to misrepresent anyone's words or intentions and to reflect the data as it is, not as I wish it could be. So I've been wanting to make this series for a while because there are so many misconceptions about homeschooling in popular media, news, certain academic circles, and in politics. And with homeschooling being on the rise, this is important. Also for microschooling too, which I just learned about, which is kind of cool. I'm just one tiny little YouTube channel, but I feel strongly that this needs a voice for the whole package. After Amazon Prime's Shiny Happy People, which came out a few months ago, and they're a rather unflattering view of homeschooling, which they painted with a very broad brush. With the rise of homeschooling during and after COVID, and with some truly awful articles in some major news journals, I feel like I need to say something, and this is the place where I have to say it. So we're going to look at the great, the good, the not so good, and the ugly. So I posted an informal survey to gather some data points in several of the Facebook groups that I belong to, and as more people gave me information and telling their stories, I'm having a lot of emotions, anger at a bad public school system, grief over their pain and their experiences, hope for their healing, and joy in their success in homeschooling. And I have to boil all of this down into short category tally marks, and the human experiences behind those tally marks have a force that I really didn't count on when I started asking those questions. Our homeschooling experience really started before our son was born. John and I both had rather horrid public school experiences. We were both bullied, and so it was so bad for him that his parents moved to a different district. As it turns out, their daughter was being bullied too. She just wasn't very open about it. They finally sent him to an alternative school, and that did work out for him for his last few years. I begged my mother to homeschool me, but it was the 80s and the 90s, and the resources that we have now just didn't exist then. I was suicidal by age 11. Things didn't improve until I was around 15 years old, and it wasn't by much. It took years to get my life straightened out, to learn to form healthy relationships, to grasp that I was permitted to go to the bathroom when I had to go to the bathroom, to get a drink of water when I wanted a drink of water. So what did I do then? I went to school and got a master's of teaching, of course, because of course I wanted to step back into that environment. It didn't work out for multiple reasons, but when we were planning our family, homeschool was always on the table. John Robert reached pre-K age, and we tried sending him to a really nice part-time private pre-K, and his teachers were sweet, and they really tried hard for him, and he just wasn't ready. We homeschooled that year. There was another school shooting, and we homeschooled him for first. We got deeply involved in the homeschool community, and he started forming his identity around being a homeschooler. And we did all the things, like all the homeschool things, and then COVID hit. And all the social things went kapoof. But his education was uninterrupted, unlike the rest of the nation. We reformed friendships and co-ops, and now he's entering the 5th grade. We're actually already into the 5th grade. He isn't a perfect student, but he does quite well. He loves learning. He loves his friends. He is enjoying his life. He's a good kid. He has hopes and dreams for the future. He likes playing ARK and Marvel Lego superheroes. Sometimes we play D&D on Sundays when we can all get together. Building forts in the bushes, gardening with Grandma, fishing with Grandpa, telling fantastic world-building stories, and he spends a lot of days with us in the park. He loves science, math, and history most. And he does struggle with spelling, but he's busting his tail to master it, and he's actually making some good progress. He wants to be a geneticist or a microbiologist when he grows up. So that gets to the heart of what I wanted to talk about there. And there's many benefits to homeschooling, and here are a few. We have very loud chicks. Personal reasons to homeschool. A personally tailored education. My son wants to be a geneticist. Now, that doesn't mean that in 5th grade I'm going to push all of the geneticist stuff on him, but we are doing microbiology for science this year. I do allow him and encourage him to study as much as he can on the subjects that interest him, and he can take the time to do that. So the other thing is that when he was really struggling with reading, we went through 4 different reading programs before we found one that actually helped him learn how to read. In the public school system, because he does not have a learning disability, he would be one of those kids who just fell through the cracks. And our local school does not have the funding to handle tutors and that sort of thing, so it would have fallen to us anyway. We get to follow his interests, which I talked about. He wants to be a geneticist, so we're doing microbiology. He gets his questions answered right away. He doesn't have to sit there like this with his hand up in the air for 10 minutes waiting for somebody to answer his question. We can also take the time that he needs to master certain topics. So if it takes him a while to understand division, we just take a while to understand division. It's not like we have to move an entire class of 30 children along because we have to move them along. Now he does have to make progress, okay, but we can take, and when I say we can take our time, I don't mean we take months of extra time. I mean we can take a few extra days or another week to really master those concepts and gain understanding. Or we can say, okay, you're not getting this right now, let's move on to this other topic and then we'll revisit it. So we have that educational flexibility that public school, good teachers, some of them are able to do it if they have a supportive district, and some of them are just told, no, you got to teach to the test, and they don't have that option. And I'm not just talking out my butt here. I was a teacher, so I do know. I worked in a couple different districts, and you know, things can be really awesome or things can be not so awesome. We also have the freedom of movement, which is both physical and mental. If he needs to get up and go to the bathroom, he just gets up and goes to the bathroom. And I did not have that freedom going through school. And if he needs to get the wiggles out, he's got a trampoline, or he can go outside and run around the house, or he can do whatever he needs to do. We can switch topics entirely and just go do gym. And the mental part of it is if he needs a 5-minute break and he just wants to lay down and be like, oh, he can do that. That's not a problem. We have a greater ability to manage our social interactions. We have several co-ops that we participate in, and they are absolutely wonderful. And there are many co-ops in the area that we just don't participate in because we wouldn't fit in there very well. And that's fine. We love that. That is one of the huge benefits of homeschooling, is that you don't have to absolutely get along with everybody. You do have to be polite, but you don't have to get along with everybody. So we also have extracurricular clubs, lessons, and family time that are highly flexible. He's taking piano lessons right now with a wonderful teacher that he adores. And we have a couple extracurricular clubs. We can, if we get an invite, like we got an invite to go horseback riding, we can just pick up and go do it. We don't have to schedule around a public school schedule. If the kids in a particular social club or co-op or whatever don't click, we don't have to force it. It's okay. We don't have to say you have to be friends or you have to be around this person. Flexibility in the scheduling, which I already sort of talked about, but he can go fishing. We can go on a hike if it's a nice day. We can start late if we get behind, it's not a big deal. We can start early if we're ready and raring to go. We can follow the circadian rhythms, which I find to be so critically important. And I'm sorry, I moved my hand quickly there, didn't I? That was very scary of me. I apologize. The chicks have to be socialized, so that's why I'm doing this out here. They have to get used to like human voices and that I'm not like this big scary monster that's going to eat them. Circadian rhythms, yes. So he can follow that. And especially as he gets into his teen years, it's going to become even more important as his body demands more sleep, that he actually gets that sleep for optimal brain and physical development growth. And there's been this whole thing where the various physicians and whatever want schools to start an hour later, and schools are like, but we can't do that. And you know, it's a thing. As homeschoolers, we can do that. He can stretch, he can take a break, he can bounce around, etc. We can take a vacation when we need to. It's not a big deal. The places are much cheaper during the school year. Again, we could spend as much family time as we want. And then we go on field trips and experiences regularly. Friday is Field Trip Friday, and boy do we go. And it's not always like a super educational experience. Sometimes it's just going on a hike and seeing different landscape. But I think it's important to do that and to have those experiences. So, reasons to homeschool from other homeschoolers. And I'll see if I can get this up in a graphic. But there were 7 of them who listed personally tailored education. 7 of them who listed the quality of education as a reason to homeschool. They didn't feel that their children were getting an adequate education in public schools. And those were mostly people who came into homeschooling from COVID. Accommodating neurodiversity and behavioral needs, that was 5 people who listed that. 5 people also listed social opportunities and influence. 6 people listed physical and mental health as reasons to homeschool. 5 people listed outdoor time. 3 people listed family time and learning speed. 2 people listed can't afford private school as one of the reasons to homeschool. 2 people listed following the child's interests. 2 people listed family beliefs, which were not necessarily religious. One of them was religious, one of them was not religious. And 1 person listed community involvement. All right, so those were all the reasons to homeschool. There are some cons of homeschooling, which, you know, if I just listed all of the reasons why homeschooling is magical, then that's not really being honest all the way. There are some cons to homeschooling, and the first one, which should be like the Captain Obvious one here, is that it is a lot of work. This is a full-time job, and, you know, that's just how it is. You're going to be teaching your child 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, year-round, and it's work. I'm not going to lie there. You have to be organized, you have to be on it, you have to be flexible, you have to do professional development. If your child starts to struggle with something, you have to find a way through. Teaching is a real job. It is not, you know, it's not a cakewalk, okay? Whether you're teaching 30 kids or whether you're teaching 1 kid, it's work. Homeschooling costs a lot of money. In New York, and I don't know if there are any states in the U.S. that provide homeschooling stipend or grant or anything like that. We pay all of this out of pocket, and we still pay our school taxes because that is very important for our community. We also have the hidden cost of lost money, where especially if you have a parent who, like me, who is staying home to educate the child, that's an entire income that's lost. I mean, realistically, their income is kind of low here, so we're only losing like $20,000 or $30,000 a year, but we're still losing $20,000 or $30,000 a year. So that is a thing that you need to consider, is can your family take that loss? And of course, some people do homeschool when they work full-time, but at that point, you're working 2 full-time jobs. There are book and material costs, which, that goes into costs. I think we spend probably about $1,000 on his education every year. Some years it's more, some years it's less. Some years I think we've spent up to $3,000, which is like what I paid for my college education. That ship has long since sailed, but putting that into perspective. There are also travel expenses. You're probably doing as much travel as a person in public school would do, realistically speaking. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Some people go on the road and homeschool and they travel full time, but that's a family decision. We're pretty much local, but he still has his piano lesson. He still has his co-ops that he goes to. We still go on field trips. So there is the gas and transportation expenses. As I said before, there are no tax breaks. There is no state or federal aid for homeschoolers. We pay our school taxes directly to the school. And something that is kind of confusing to me, which I'll bring up in a later video, is where exactly does the money that we pay the school district go when our kid isn't going to the school district? We'll get to that later. Let's just stick a little pin in that one. And then there's paperwork, depending on the state that you're in. In New York State, they say that we have high regulations here. We file 4 types of paperwork. It's pretty easy. There's no hardship here. If you keep up with your records, everything's going to be fine. So that's it for the reasons why we homeschool portion. What I would like to do next is the myths about homeschooling. So we will catch you for that video directly after this one.